You looking at some that they got it out the mud, baby. Got it out the mud, baby. We some mud babies, mud babies.
What's happening, YouTube? Let's get right into this. Now, the Nortenos went down there to the No Jumper podcast in Southern California, right? And a lot of people in the comments, a lot of people doing videos, a lot of people, it seems like, are upset about this. And I see a lot of people, even local Southern California artists, are commenting on certain videos, certain posts, saying like, oh, they're all excited because they came down to LA. It's not just that, bro. Look, it's just that Northerners don't typically do interviews. Now, I came across this video from Gunner's Collective, right? And he has his point of view on things and the way he sees things from his experience based on when he was running the streets and coming in and out of the pen and things like that, right? And he said Norteños aren't allowed to be on camera. And he always told me this too. Like before we had like a few words with each other, this and that. And he was like, that's why you don't show your face, because you'll get deemed no good. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And that's not true, bro. That's not true at all. Like that's furthest from the truth. Now I get where he's coming from, where he says when he was around running amok that there was rules that Norteños couldn't be on camera. That's kind of like a slippery slope, bro. That's kind of like a blurry area. It's a gray area, bro. You feel me? Because there's nothing that's set in stone that says thou shalt not be on camera. Thou shalt not do interviews. You feel me? There's nothing in the 14 commandments set in stone that says that. Now, when he says when the camera crews do go into the jails, into the pintas, that, you know, you have to cover your face and make sure if they do it, they blur out your face. That is true. That's true. You know, you're told because camera crews go into prisons and they try to do documentaries or interviews for the news or whatever the case is. And we're always told, being from the North, that, you know, deny those interviews, don't be on camera, this, that, and the third. And so when people are taught that in the prison system, right, Northerners are taught this, then when they leave the prison system, they take with them this knowledge gain, this education gain, this game that they were gamed up on while in the pen, and they take that with them to the streets. And then they lace up their homies in the streets, you feel me, their hood, on what they learned from behind the walls. Don't be on camera. Don't do this. Don't do that. And doing interviews and being on camera is just one of those things that they learned and took with them back to the streets. That's why Norteños have this thought in their head that they're not allowed to be on camera, when necessarily that's not the case. See, the reason why it's looked down upon or encouraged not to go on camera and do these type of interviews in the past, it's because the simple fact that it will bring unwanted attention to yourself and those around you. Now, let's say you go on this interview, because I've seen interviews from dudes from other states, out of state, right? Different hoods, Bloods, Crips, Latin Kings, Serrenos from Southern California, Los Angeles, from the 90s and the 80s, where the news will go in there, interview them, they'll bang on them, say their hoods, give them a walkthrough, like, you feel me? And things you're seeing now on YouTube, but it's the news people actually doing these interviews of these gang members. You won't see no interviews like that coming from Norteños because of these rules. And it's not that, oh, you just can't go on camera. No, there's a reason behind it, because it's going to cause unnecessary attention to those and those around you. Now, say you go on camera, you're a Northerner, and you say, oh, yeah, I'm a big bad this, whoop de whoop whoop, you rep your hood, you gang banging, all that, right? Okay, cool, fine and dandy. Now all those around you are going to be labeled associates or whatever the case is, and going to be labeled gang related just by hanging around with you. Now, just because you went on and did this stupid interview, you just made your homies hot. You know what I'm saying? You got probably going to get them gang enhancements now. And not only that, Norteños are always taught to remain low key. Stay low key, stay out the way. The number one enemy is always law enforcement. So you don't want to do anything to cause them to look at you. And being on camera and doing interviews is one of those things you should avoid. And that's where this rule comes up, to try to avoid any unnecessary, unwanted attention. That's simple, homie. To avoid any unnecessary and unwanted attention. Norteños really don't do interviews is because people say, oh, because you guys ain't popping. Man, there's some Norteño rappers that is way better than any of them new dudes coming out of Southern California. But they just ain't going on the podcast saying crazy stuff. For one, they can't talk about prison. So, you know, a lot of these dudes from Southern California, they go on podcasts, and that's what people want to hear. I'm going to be real with y'all. That's what people want to hear. They tune into the prison stories and their war stories and their crazy hood stories. Norteños ain't going to go on podcasts and talk about all that nonsense. Norteños ain't going to go on a podcast and say, yeah, I was in a riot and stabbed 3 Southsiders. Like, you know what I'm saying? Even though that probably did happen and it would get a lot of clicks and views and it would get your name popping more, they're not gonna do that. They're not gonna go on a podcast and be like, yeah, I was in CYA, we got into this riot with the Bulldogs, knocked about 4 of them out. Like, they not, if that's true or not, they're not gonna go on podcasts and say these things. Now, I talked to a couple artists from the North that are very well popular, and I feel like they should have more of a, I mean, their music speaks for itself, but I feel like they should have more of a buzz and a push. And they told me this, exactly what I'm telling you guys, that it's because we don't do the messy shit, homie. And I told them straight up, I was like, look, bro, that messy shit sells. You know what I'm saying? When I say messy shit, I'm talking about all the drama and the clicks and the views. Like, you know what I'm saying? He goes, my music speaks for itself. So the homies' music speak for itself. It's going to sell regardless. He goes, we're not going to lower our standards just to get a couple extra views. That's why you don't see dudes from the North on IG Live arguing with other dudes and dissing this fool's hood, dissing this other rapper, dissing this fool. Like, man, fuck them fools on the set, homie, on the set, homie, on the dead homies. Whoop de whoop whoop, da da da. They're not doing that because there's a level of professionalism that Norteños are taught. And like I said, it goes back from prison, and then those guys get out of prison and they teach these things to the younger homies. What they learn in prison, the knowledge gained and educational endeavor is learned in prison, they take with them back to the streets and spread that knowledge out to the younger homies. At least that's what they're supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't always work out like that. You know, you got knuckleheads everywhere. But on a grander scale of things, that's what it is, bro. And can't no one deny it. The way the Southsiders act down in Southern California, does it help their rap career? Yes, most definitely. Number one, they're from LA. So anyone from LA is automatically going to get a big push. You got all the record labels down there. Plus, it's the big city. It's LA, bro. Regardless of where you're from or what color your skin is, you're from LA, you're a rapper, you're going to get more of a push than anyone else. And then plus, if you go on IG Live or you go on these podcasts and you say all kinds of crazy stuff every time that camera's on, you're going to get even more of a push because that's what sells, the drama. Now, I don't know if this is just how these dudes are down there or if they caught on to that and they do these type of things on purpose. Like, I know Swifty Blue used to do that a lot. He used to go and say all kinds of crazy shit. Every time that camera was on, he used to do crazy things, say crazy stuff because he knows that's what's going to sell. So it seems like it's a trend down there in Southern California that every time the camera's rolling, these Southsiders tend to say the most outrageous, crazy things, diss somebody. It doesn't have to be the North. They diss somebody else, another Southsider from Southern Cali, diss their hood or something, and it's going to sell. And it seems like a trend. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'm gone.